All right, my name is Matt. I go by MattMan online. Started this channel because I've got a really bad solar habit. Or at least that's what my wife tells me. I think I just like to save money on electricity, and it's kind of a I don't know, pet peeve of mine. I don't pay for things if you don't have to. So I'm going to start this channel with a project that I did for my wife's food cart. It's a coffee trailer that we use for both transporting things and for fairs and little events nearby and stuff like that, car shows and stuff like that. So this is a 2000 watt, or at least it is now. You'll see the transition over a couple of different recordings that I did of it as I was making it. I have not released any of them yet, so I'm going to put those together here and put them out. So you'll see a combination of things that changed. It started with the hurricane. I took some batteries that I'd bought from Amazon, and I started putting together a system and threw some panels on the ground and kind of kept some ice during the hurricane. And then after that, it turned into it would be a really nice thing to just have, to be able to leave the food trailer when we go to shows and keep the ice, keep the refrigeration and the milk and that kind of stuff running overnight. And then the next morning you could turn back on the generator, let the panels charge back up. As it turned out, it worked out a lot better than I ever expected it to. So you'll see I've got a couple of home-size panels mounted on the top of the trailer. I've got a 2,000 watt inverter inside. I've got two 100 amp 12 volt batteries running in series for a 24 volt system. All the normal stuff other than that, but you'll see that the project kind of transitioned a little bit, and so instead of releasing one video after the other, I basically just recorded a whole bunch of this stuff as it was going on and figuring at some point I was going to start this channel and get this done. So here's that point. I've got a lot of other projects that I'd like to do also. I mean, obviously my RV, I have an RV with 604 amp hours now, 30 kilowatts or 33 kilowatts, something like that. It's a 48 volt system as opposed to this. It has a 6000 XP. So we'll talk about that and a little bit about the home system, although that one's a solar edge and professionally installed and kind of out of my hands kind of thing. So won't really do a whole bunch about that because that was just before I actually got involved in it, doing it DIY style. So either way, you're going to find the couple of videos here. I probably will separate them out into multiple releases on YouTube so that they're not too terribly long. If it turns out that the editing brings them down to a reasonable size, I'll put them all out on one. Hopefully I can come back between each one of them and give you a little bit of synopsis of what happened and everything. Other than that, this is the kickoff to the real kickoff to the channel. I appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Help me grow a little bit that way. I've got a lot of projects in the future coming. I love to do ESP things, home automation with Home Assistant, Solar Assistant. I use it also. I use the Starlink system in my RV, and practically everything is running from my RV, so I'm mobile with kind of everything. And then some home stuff will be also added in there, but everything from the installation of the solar panels on the RV to the installation of the 6000 XP, the building a DIY battery. I love all aspects of the process of planning it, building it. I like the idea that things change and nothing survives the initial start of the plan. I like that, but we'll go through some of those projects as it goes on. I'm going to attempt to make to get at least one video out a week, so hopefully that'll be my plan. If I can get to a consistent release on a certain date, that's what I'm going to try to do. But other than that, I'm going to just go straight into the first video. It's pretty raw. I probably won't edit it a whole lot. We'll do some editing on the future stuff, but I want to get these out and make sure that we get things started. So here's the first one, and we'll see you after the first one, and we'll continue then. Thanks, and thanks for watching the channel. I appreciate it. All right, let's start this off with a small project I've got going here. My wife's coffee trailer, as you can see from back here, has a nice 220 outlet coming in that I usually run with a generator. But when we go to fairs, we end up with this problem of either taking everything with us because we don't have power overnight, or trying to figure out a way to keep a generator running all night. So what I'm hooking up here is 2 lithium batteries with a couple of solar panels on the roof, solar charge controller, and a 200-watt inverter, which will be here shortly. As you can see, the freezer and the Coke sodas over there, that's what we're going to be running with them. I'm going to show you the solar panels here. This is what we're going to be hooking up today. So I'm waiting for a couple of things to get here. This is a quick test just to see if we can do it. Quick test to see if the video is working and the audio is working. So once this is done, we're going to take these batteries, hook them up to that shunt. The shunt will in turn, I think I can show you the readout on the shunt. Oh no, I can't. Let's see. The shunt will actually basically give us a readout of how everything's working, how it's all working, what kind of energy we're burning, that kind of stuff. So as you can see there, that's what that's going to be for. Kind of give us an idea of what we've done. Then we will take that, hook that into an inverter, which will mount there, and our charge controller here, which runs to 2 home-based solar panels on the roof, 370-watt Atos solar panels that I used also on my RV. So we'll see later. All right, kicking things off here, just want to kind of go through a quick overview of what we've got so far. As you know, we're working on the food trailer. This is basically to allow the coffee trailer to, I call it a food trailer, but this is to allow the coffee trailer, as you can see, it has a big intake feed from a 220 50 amp split phase plug, which runs off a 9500 watt generator. One of those inverter generators from Harbor Freight. It's a nice generator, it works really well. You can see it sitting back here if you're interested in the kind of generator that it runs off of. They work really well. It's got nice clean energy, allows me to run practically everything without too much of a problem. So here's what we've got. Here's the system that we've got installed. So the idea is that we want to be able to go to fairs and make sure that we can leave the trailer overnight without things like the freezer and the ice cream melting. So this allows us to bring the freezer in and the unit and leave the unit overnight, just take the dirty dishes home, wash them, bring them back the next day and open up without worrying about the power going out. Power at fairs is notoriously dirty. I don't like leaving things plugged in overnight, even if I do have power, as the generators they use are horribly off and on and have all kinds of spikes. So the system we have here is a 2000 watt, 24 volt. I'm running 200 amp hour batteries that I bought off of Amazon as basically a test. The batteries ended up working out so well that they both ended up being the same brand, are made by the same manufacturer in the same manufacturing plant a day apart from each other. So the cells were pretty balanced, so I went ahead and used them. With this system, basically, I run up out of the negative thing into a 100 amp breaker. It allows me to shut things off, work on stuff. It also provides a good, if it's hitting 100 amps at 24 volts, then it's well exceeded the capacity of what I want it to be able to do here, so it just shuts everything off and closes it down. From there, it runs into the breaker bar. The breaker bar then splits it up to a couple of different things. The first one obviously comes in from the charge controller, which is a 100 Victron Energy Smart Solar Charger MMPT 120. It's running 2 solar panels off the roof. I'll get to those here in a few minutes and kind of show you what those are, but they're 370 watt, 2 bifocal 370 watt panels. From that bus bar, we have a few things hooked up. The first one obviously is the charge controller. The second one is the big thing that goes up to a big shutoff switch up here. standard 48 volt or 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt shut-off switch that runs down to the inverter. This is basically to allow me the ability to shut the inverter off and have basically a nice handy switch to just shut the power off and safely turn off the 120 stuff. From there, I've got a wall outlet that runs outside. This runs through the wall just for overnight, for me to be able to, instead of having the generator hooked up or having it run directly to a 50 amp outlet, I run it into this, which just splits it into both sides of the phase and allows us to run the split phase off of the single phase, one side 110 right out of this inverter. It will not handle obviously all the breakers, but it handles enough to allow me to run a freezer overnight. The freezer runs down at about 1.2 kilowatts a day. So running it overnight, it brings the batteries down into the about 70% zone and then recharges it back in the next morning at the same time. Today, I'm running a little bit more of a test. I've turned on the Espresso machine. It's in the process of warming up. And as you can see, it is pulling from the inverter, from the thing, 1.13 kilowatts out of the battery. That's in addition to what the solar is actually doing. It's running at about 66%, or 60%, no, 66% of its load. So we're looking at around 1.2, 1.3 kilowatts coming out to run the inverter right now. The inverter has a screen also on the front, and I just don't turn it on very often. I'll turn it on here so you can see it. It basically matches that. Then I also split off, in addition to that, there's two little split offs here, run up the middle of this thing. The first one runs up, goes all the way around the trailer, up into this corner, all the way down to the very, very end down here, where I have just started hooking up you can see there's a temperature sensor there, and the temperature sensor runs to basically a fan up in the, hopefully that shading will temper down here and we can see it. There it is, a fan. When it gets up over 90 degrees in here, that automatically kicks on and vents. This allows me to leave this out in a field or whatever, wherever I happen to be at a fair, and to keep it from getting, smoldering in here. It isn't good for the batteries, it isn't good for the equipment, it isn't easy to keep the freezer even running with those temperatures. So that helps vent it and keep it down to a reasonable rate, and it seems to work pretty well. That is running off of a little converter, runs up here into this. This converts the 24 volts down to 12 volts. Allows me to have the 12 volt fan hooked up and properly separated from the 24 volt system, but still using the fan. I haven't noticed it making any considerable pull. It's 10 or 12 watts when it's running. It usually only runs a couple hours a day in the really heaty part of it. The second piece is the little sensors. You'll see the shunt is running off of that, connects down here across the shunt, and then goes up on the negative side. It comes up off the battery and connects into the shunt, and then from the shunt goes directly into the bus bar, and you can see the wires for the shunt there, and the lower section of the wires right here are also running to the shunt. That runs up here and just basically gives me a basic readout of what's going on, how many watts it's pulling directly from the battery. I've noticed this is not like a Victron Smart Shunt. It does not register power in and out and kind of give me a metering of how much power the battery has and how charged it is. The charging is based strictly on on what is part of the voltage of the battery. So it is completely and totally inaccurate. It doesn't really mean a whole lot with lithium. In addition to this in the system, I've done a couple of things. I wanted to be able to monitor it while I was setting it up, so I did hook up an ESP device, the 8266, and connected that to the Victron connector here. We'll go through this project and kind of show you how I did that. I can't take claim for most of that. I stole a whole bunch of different information off the internet for that, on how to make this work and how to report this directly into the home
home assistant. It works pretty darn good. As you'll notice, I have a plug up here that runs out of this outlet, and it runs down into the floor. It is hanging out of the bottom of the trailer with a Wi-Fi extender to provide. The walls in this RV are really limiting. So I wanted it up out of the weather, but I wanted them to be able to get to the, so you can see the Wi-Fi extender there hanging down the trailer. That reaches over to the house, grabs the Wi-Fi, and allows me to monitor this. It's only temporary while I'm here. Once I've got the system installed and done, I'll just disconnect this. It won't need it out in the field. But it makes it really easy for me to monitor it. In addition to that, I've also been playing with some ESP32 and some CAN bus stuff. This is not even hooked up here. It's just basically using the ESP to relay some of the, I've got it set up as a smart, what do they call it? Bluetooth relay. The CAN bus isn't active. I just wanted to make sure I could get it to compile correctly and register if CAN bus was there. So later on I'm going to do some videos based on connecting CAN bus to batteries and that kind of stuff. But that's just kind of also running off of it. Then we come back over this direction. Here's the temporary connection for my Raspberry Pi 5, 4 gigs of memory. Just plugged straight into one of the USB ports inside the trailer. And a temperature sensor. I actually included 2 temperature sensors here. This one's a weather station that has barometer and all that kind of stuff also. As a playing around I was doing. It's kind of an interesting project. I'll show you some details in it at some point in a future videos also. And then this was a another weather or temperature sensor. This one's basically temperature and humidity. I've noticed that there is a slight difference between the two. I don't know if that's a calibration thing or which one's the most accurate, but I'm going to do some studies on it and try to figure that out. So, took me quite a while to get the batteries balanced. I'll go through some of the steps that I went through there. But running through the rest of the system here, that's all the DC side of things. The AC is pretty easy. It just runs out here, runs into the RV, or runs into the trailer. The trailer runs into this box, which splits out the breakers. I've shut a bunch of the breakers off so that I don't have to worry about any problems with that. So that only the things I want to run are running right now. It's the espresso machine in the freezer. And it should be pulling quite a bit out of that battery. And then, obviously the solar runs out here. I did put a shut-off switch here. I usually go into the Victron and shut it off there first, and then shut it off here so that this switch doesn't have any problems. I'm a little leery of this, although I see a lot of people using them. I'm only running at 65, 66, 70 volts, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. It's not like one of the big ones that runs into the 6000 XP or something where you're running 250, 300 volts. That would make me a little bit more nervous. Although the switch claims that it can do it, I'm not 100% sold on that yet. So let's go outside real quick, do a quick look at what we got going on here. The solar comes out. I've got it just spooled into a pile and then runs up onto the roof. I'll take you up there and show you kind of what we're planning on up here. The idea up here is to have the 2 solar panels mounted. I'm in the process of putting these rails down. I'm going to mount 2 rails, probably a good 16, 18 inches in here, 16, 18 inches is over there, along this way. And then I'm just going to mount these 2 panels here. Right now they're just sitting up here. And as you can see the fan back there, stopping the trailer from getting too hot. Probably got room for more, but to be honest with you, with the 24 volt system in there and these 2 370 watt panels, I'm really not in need of anything more at this point. They peak out during the day, and it's November, December. The sun is terrible this time of year, and I'm still maxing out and able to run plenty of tests. usually by 10 or 11 o'clock it's fully charged, so I have plenty of time there. Anyway, that's the gist of the project at this point. We'll have a few more videos going forward on what we're doing with it, how I'm going to wrap it up here in the next few days, call it done, and then I'm going to move the trailer over into a fixed parking spot so it'll run itself all the time. And that'll allow me not only to do it at fairs, but it'll allow me to just keep it in a regular storage unit and not have to keep it someplace close where there's power and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time. All right, here we are out the trailer again. This time I'm mounting the rails up in here. So what I'm mounting them to is the top of the trailer. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get a better view of that. There you go. So those are giant bolts go through the roof. Giant washers. There's going to be 5 of them all the way across to hold the panels in. So we got the base 2, which is one at this end and one at that end. Now, the 3 in the middle are kind of the trick, because they've got to line up perfect to make everything work. So here's what we're doing in the inside of the trailer. Is I put the first bolt from this end through, and I just started it. As you can see right here, it's just started, thread it, give it a little bit of room so I can still get sealant underneath them once I go to attach these down. And then the second one is all the way at this end, and I did the same thing, and that runs the full length all the way down to that end. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a small thread hanging here. I've taken this thread and ran it all the way down to the end, and then right here in the middle, I have got the thread, and I push it up, and you'll see that it lines up right here where this hole is. So then I can drill straight up into the strut at the top, and hopefully it'll find a hole in the strut, and then I can just push the bolt through. In this case, it did. I still got to drill 2 of them out. If I don't find a hole in the strut, then I'll just drill a new hole in the strut and I'll put the bolts in there. That's how basically that's how I'm attaching the struts, is 5 3/8-inch bolts through the frame of the trailer. I just pulled the lid off. The insulation's still here, and then I'm going to reattach. Once I attach the studs, then I'll put some roofing back on in here, but that's for another day and completely another project. So, all right. We're attaching these brackets to the solar panels. And so what I had to do is, they didn't fit in the normal slots that they provided. They have these like slots that they had on these solar panels. I don't see one. And what I needed was a nice, small, clean hole, like the grounding hole that they created, like that one there. But they didn't do that. So what I ended up doing was just drilling a little hole, placing the brackets in there. And let's just see if I can get this on. And then you just take a 10 on each side and tighten them down. But I drilled the hole out just exactly the same size as the bolt. That way you got a nice clean hold and clamp on there. And then up on the roof, I'll show you that part now too. When you put the solar panels back up there, they go into the Unistrut pretty well. Sorry about the glare from the sun. I should probably climb up on the other side, but this side's the only side I have bolted down at this point. So then I just drilled a hole basically right where I needed it so that the Unistrut could snap down, and use the standard 3/8-inch bolts with the Unistrut bolt on the nut on the bottom. It worked really, really well. They're very, very firmly in place. The Unistruts are attached well to the roof, as you can see. Same thing there. The bolts go all the way through into the frame of the trailer. And these
are very convenient for the Unistruts. Place them in the Unistrut, push them down, turn the sideways, and then just turn them. And once you do that, it just becomes basically a nut held in place and allows you to thread it in. The nice thing about it is that they're grooved. So, let's see if I can find that darn camera. There it is. They're grooved along here, so when they fit into that Unistrut, they hold in place and turn really well. But at the same time, the other nice piece is they just slide up and down inside these rails for you. Make it very easy for you to move things around. Anyway, that's what I'm doing this morning before the sun comes out. Recharges the batteries. I think my batteries are, I had some extra stuff running last night, so I ran it down a little bit more than normal, down to, I don't know, 60%, something like that. So I'm going to put the other 4 on here, get the solar panel back up there, get things charging again, get these bolted down and get the top of this RV finished, or top of this trailer finished. And then I'm going to clean this rabbit's nest up, tie down all the wires, put some kind of protective covers over the batteries, get this trailer back into commission. Wife's got a show on Saturday, so we're going to make sure that she can go there and not have the generator running on the way there, not have the generator running on the way back, but still keep the freezer full. Anyway, we will come back and show you a little bit more here a little bit later. One last look at the coffee trailer here, running on solar in order to keep everything refrigerated while we're not here. We just got back from a huge event at the Space Force marathon run that they had here at Patrick's Air Force Base and Space Force Base over here in Cape Canaveral, Florida. System worked flawlessly. The night before I had all the refrigeration turned on. Batteries were at 12% with heating the espresso machine. Half hour before we got there, I flipped on the espresso machine. It ran the water pumps and got the espresso machine up to temperature before we got to set up. Flawless execution. 200 amp hour 12 volt batteries running in running in series for running a 28 volt battery. Worked like a champ. Absolutely no problems here whatsoever. The inverter worked really well. I think I probably would have popped the inverter if I'd had all the refrigeration and the espresso machine kick on once. I did forget one of the actual cables to hook the generator up, so I was running everything off of 110 outlets while I was out there. It really worked really well. It's considered a split 220 anyway. The solar panels work fantastically. They're mounted up off the on rails, up off a couple of inches off the roof. They protect us from the heat, and they also absorb lots of sun. While we were there, we got home, we were at 70% batteries again, so they recovered most of the time, most of their power. So that said, everything worked the way it was supposed to. Everything turned out just fantastic. I am going to take this gauge out though. It's ran, you can see, 207 amp hours. It isn't real accurate for, it's not like a smart shunt like the one that comes with the Victron version of it. It just basically is good for measuring what comes out of the battery and that kind of stuff. And it works well for giving me watts coming out. Like right now, we're burning 175 because the lights are on. I flipped the lights off. I got all these LEDs. I got a bunch of them plugged in here. I flipped that off. As you can see, refrigeration freezer is running right now, so we're sitting at 94 watts. And there's probably no input left from solar. So normally I run 220 into the fuse box, and that splits off the generator and runs over here. So right now this is just plugged into a 110 split off, runs both of them off this 110, and I only turn on the devices that I need. I did forget at the when I was at the event, I forgot to bring the plug,
And I had the extension cord, but I didn't have the plug, so we ran everything off of 110s, which worked out really well. Had to split off a few things. Everything worked flawlessly. I am going to take that shunt out and just use it for measuring capacity of batteries, but everything else worked perfectly. The system ran water pumps, refrigeration, even the espresso machine 30 minutes before we got there. I flipped it on and ran it perfectly. And then when I flipped everything back to the generator, it charged up all day while we were there. We got out of that event around 2 in the afternoon, got back, plugged back in the refrigeration, and it was at 70% before the sun went down. So it made it through the next night just fine. Everything's perfect now. It charged up today, made it to just at 100%. I mean, barely made it there. So as you can see, the inverter showing 26.4 volts. And I think we're sitting in the high 90s somewhere. So anyway, just wanted to kind of get this done so I can get this video out for you guys. This will be probably my first one going out, and looking forward to the next couple. Anyway, hope you have a good one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.